Welcome back to the TWSN YouTube channel, and we are back with the NFL mock drafts. Today we have a way too early 2023 first round mock. Now this one, look, again, the order is going to be completely different. The player rankings are going to be completely different. It is a way too early video. We're going to have some fun, give you guys a little bit of a future outlook on what some of these prospects and draft rankings could be. But with that being said, let's just get right into it, man. This draft class is going to be one talented group. You got the quarterbacks, you got some generational defensive prospects, and I know that phrase gets thrown out a lot, but it holds true with Will Anderson Jr. But again, let's just get right into it. First pick on the clock, the Atlanta Falcons. Again, the rankings will, or the draft spots will be different. These are just the ones we're rolling with. It's probably based on Super Bowl odds, whatever it is. This is what we're rolling with for this video today. And if the Falcons are here, first overall pick, they're going to go with the quarterback. And you obviously have Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. I'm going to go ahead and give them CJ Stroud here. I know it's a little bit of a pick your poison there, I think. Bryce Young might be a little small for some people, and they're pretty similar prospects to a degree. I just like CJ Stroud a little bit better than Bryce Young, but again, if you prefer Bryce Young, nobody's going to call you an idiot. So, and in this case, Bryce Young at second to the Texans. I like Davis Mills, but if they're in the position to be picking second, Davis Mills probably didn't play very well. I think they probably won't be in this spot. But again, if they are, Bryce Young's got to be the easiest pick. And now this is by far the easiest pick any franchise probably has ever had to make. Will Anderson is one of the best defensive prospects we have ever seen. And the Lions keep getting value. I'm sure they would love a quarterback, but you cannot turn down Will Anderson for any of these quarterbacks or any player at all. If Will Anderson went first overall, I firmly believe he is the best player in this draft by a good margin. But it's a quarterback-driven league. Can't argue it too much, but this would be an absolute home run for the Lions. Another team that I don't believe will be picking this high, but if they are, Will Anderson Jr. looks unreal at third overall. It's a steal. It's an absolute steal. I know it's a third pick. How can it be a steal? Will Anderson, in my opinion, will be the best player throughout this draft cycle. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. At number 4 is Seattle. They can go a bunch of different ways. I think a lot of these interior defensive linemen, these edge rushers, make a lot of sense. But I really think Seattle is probably going to lean towards a quarterback because they have some playmakers. And I really like Will Levis from the University of Kentucky. He's got a big year ahead of him. He's going to need to make that jump a little bit, but he's just kind of got all the tools you want to see. He's in the SEC, so he can compete with the best of the best, and we'll kind of really be able to see what he is. And, he's a bigger guy. He can run. He's mobile. He can do a little bit of everything. And I think Seattle they don't have anybody for the future at the quarterback position. I think there's a number of different guys that they could go here. Anthony Richardson, Tyler Van Dyke, Devin Leary, Tanner McKee. There's a bunch of guys. I just think Will Levis is probably going to rise a little bit just playing in the SEC with his dual threat and his build in general. Now the Jets at 5, they're a weird one. The Jets have a little bit of everything. I think this could easily be the first offensive lineman off the board. I know they've kind of done that recently, but I think I'm going to ahead and just give him Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. I know it's probably not the most exciting pick for the Jets, but Becton's battles with injuries. They've invested so much into this team, into this offense. They need to keep protecting Zach Wilson. And you don't really need too much else. Yeah, you can maybe go receiver. You can maybe go with an edge rusher, or maybe even a linebacker potentially, but it's just a little too early for them. But here at the 5th pick, get one of the best offensive linemen in this draft, if not the best one, at the 5th pick. Now the Jags, again, very kind of similar to the Jets, where they have a little bit of everything, but nothing like crazily set in stone. And I'm going to go ahead and give Trevor Lawrence his running mate for the next few years, and Keyshawn Boyett, man, these LSU receivers keep coming. Here's another one. Trevor Lawrence gets his young running mate for the next few years, maybe forever in his career in Jacksonville. They have some receivers, but again, nobody like that exciting. They paid Christian Kirk. They have Zay Jones, Laviska Shenault. Nobody's really paying it out. You want somebody that can grow and build with Trevor Lawrence. And Keyshawn Boyett is that guy. Now, 7 with the Panthers. Again, another team that could definitely be in on the quarterback market here. I have no clue what they're gonna do. I really don't. They can go so many different directions. I think a receiver makes a lot of sense for them. Just because they have DJ Moore, Terrence Marshall hasn't panned out. I think receiver could very well be in play here, but I really love Jalen Carter. And that's kind of how they've been drafting of late, or just in general lately. They've just been kind of bolstering the trenches. They could go an offensive lineman here as well. But Jalen Carter is just the best player available here, and it's kind of hard to pass it up when you are in a position like the Panthers are. The Panthers, it wouldn't surprise you if the Panthers aren't even close to the 7th pick. They have some things, if it just goes right, they could have a really good year this year, but who knows if that'll really happen. There's a lot to go on there. The Chicago Bears, if the Bears are picking 8th, I'd be shocked. I think they're going to be really bad. Really, really bad. But again, 8th, I think it's going to be kind of the same process anyway. They could go look for some offensive linemen, but I think you need to get Justin Fields some help. Bring him his Ohio State receiver back, Jackson Smith and Jigba, 8th overall to the Chicago Bears. I think it's really an offensive lineman or receiver. And pick your poison. There's definitely some good offensive linemen available. But again, we'll have to see how it goes. Now, the Giants at 9. This is going to be a quarterback. Which one? Again, take your pick. You really can kind of go wherever. I like Tyler Van Dyke from Miami. His play down the stretch last year doesn't get talked about enough. Super, super, super good. Super impressive. It's a little bit of another prove it year. Can he continue that? We'll see. I think he will. If not, like I said earlier with the Seahawks, it's just going to be a preference between these teams. Tanner McKee, Anthony Richardson, Devin Leary are all guys that could fly up the draft boards, and there's plenty of others as well. This one doesn't have all the options yet either, so there's so many people that can kind of be left. Now, Washington here at 10, they're going to continue to address the defensive side of the football. Go ahead and give him Keely Ringo. This is safety, more of a corner here. They need secondary help. They just do. They have so many good pass rushers and people on the defensive line. They're going to use the linebacker as well, but they need secondary help really bad, and that just kind of fell right into their lap there with probably the best one in the class. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, another team that hasn't picked this high in a while. The Steelers have been always in the playoffs of late, always winning seasons under Mike Tomlin. So it's a little bit of uncharted territory for them. And, you can't pass up on Myles Murphy here, man. Arguably the best player left on the board. Could have went several picks higher. Just a freak athlete, a freak player. Him and Brian Breeze here, would either of those picks work? You get another young edge to learn from TJ Watt. It's a scary thought of what that duo could be in a few years. Very, very good. I'm going to go ahead and just give the Vikings his teammate and Brian Breeze right here. Clemson should be so good. I can't believe they struggled the last year, really. And I know they battled a lot of injuries, but I think they're going to have a bounce back year this year. We'll see, but regardless, Myles Murphy and Brian Breeze are phenomenal players. Absolutely phenomenal players. Now, the Eagles, they have 2 picks again here at 13 and 18. They could do a lot of different things. They really could. I don't know what direction I want to go first. They could really do a lot. They had a bunch of picks. They've traded for players. They're a really solid team. They can really do whatever. I'm looking kind of in the secondary here a little bit. Some people I like. Jordan Battle and Jalen Catalon are more safeties. They still could easily be in play here. They're very good. I'm going to go ahead and give them Antonio Johnson, though. A little bit more of that safety guy. They can do a little bit of everything back there. And the Eagles, they just need better secondary play. They have Slay, and then they signed Bradbury, but so they don't have any secondary play to look forward to in the upcoming years. They just don't. They need some youth back there in the secondary to kind of build with some of the other young pieces they have. And the Raiders here at 14 is interesting. The Raiders are one of those teams that could be way lower. That division is unreal. It's really, really good. Now, if they are here at the 14th pick, they obviously probably finished in last place in that division, and they can go a number of different ways as well. I'm going to go ahead and just give him Paris Johnson. I think they need an offensive lineman. You just figure it out later. They need an offensive lineman. Paris Johnson is very good value here at 14. He's kind of somebody I wanted to work in earlier. I'd consider him way earlier. I'd consider him probably starting at 7. And here he is at 14 to the Las Vegas Raiders. I almost call them the Oakland Raiders. You see the little Dolphins pick right there. That's just going to be interesting to see how the year goes, because they don't have their first round pick because of the whole, Tom Brady and situation. So they forfeited that pick. That's gonna be something to watch for sure. Now the Tampa Bay. I'm thinking of Tom Brady, man. I see the Patriots down here. The New England Patriots, again, can do a lot. They don't have anybody special. They got Mac. They just got to really, like, the Patriots are the definition of just solid. They're not like spectacular in any direction at all. They're kind of looking for their next like breakout player to draft to kind of like build around with Mac Jones or whatever. And there's a number of different people you can kind of like here, but I'm gonna go Andre Carter from Army. You don't see Army players drafted, rarely ever. Obviously, you go to Army, you have to fulfill your military requirements, but you can push it back. He'll be draft eligible, and he is one hell of a player. Just, an Army guy to New England, that just sounds perfect. It just sounds like exactly what's gonna happen. Now the Titans, again, another one of those teams that could kind of fluctuate. I'm not too high on the Titans this year, where they play in a weak division. So again, I think they could kind of fall in a number of different areas. So it's a little tough. I think they really need to bolster their defense. I'm just going to go ahead and give them another good edge rusher from Kansas State. They produce some really good under-the-radar edge rushers the last few years. Nobody's really panned out too much, but they have good production in college. And there's another one, Felix Anduke-Uzama, fantastic player. Kansas State builds another. Just speaking of solid teams, Kansas State just builds a number of solid NFL players. This is what their second one. No, it was Northwestern with Skowronek earlier. Texans with the Deshaun Watson pick here again can do anything. They've had the luxury of having so many picks, so many different things. They can really do whatever. This is tough. I like the LSU. I like Roy from LSU. I like Nolan Smith here. Let's go ahead and give him Nolan Smith. They don't really have too many young rushers in general. They have a couple solid ones, but I mean, we saw them last year. They were with Derek Stingley early, so they need a little bit of some way to get pressure. Nolan Smith is that kind of your off-ball linebacker, rusher, can do a little bit of everything. Very versatile piece there. And at 17, again, that's with the Deshaun Watson suspension. Who knows where Cleveland goes? If they're higher, nobody should be surprised. If they're a little lower, I'd be a little surprised just because I don't know how much success they're going to have without him. But again, it's kind of right there. It wouldn't shock me no matter kind of what happens. The Eagles, again, we just kind of talked about how they have a lot. And they are, again, they can do whatever I'm looking. This isn't one where I really start to consider a running back here in Bijan Robinson. And I know running backs aren't highly touted like that anymore, but he is different. He is one of the best running back prospects we've seen in quite some time, but I just don't know if the Eagles pulled the trigger on it. It wouldn't surprise me if they did, but I'm going to kind of continue the theme that I brought up earlier with their secondary and go ahead and give them Eli Ricks from Alabama. Ricks is, a transfer. We'll see how it kind of plays out there, but the upside is there. Like I talked about, they need some excitement, some youth in that secondary. And in this draft, I mean, adding Antonio Johnson and Eli Ricks is phenomenal. You can't ask for much more there. The Ravens at 19 is a little low for where I kind of think they'll finish. I think the Ravens are in for a good year. I really do. But again, another team. What are you going to do? They're good. I think you can really kind of look at the wide receiver here. Quentin Johnson, phenomenal. Jordan Addison, phenomenal. But do they care about wide receivers? Like, I don't know how they value that position, man. We saw them trade Hollywood. Like, they have Rashad Bateman, they've made some other small signings, but how much do they truly care about that position? I don't know. I'm going to go down the board. I was scrolling, and I kind of like Cam Smith from South Carolina. He's one of the most underrated players early on in this draft cycle. Phenomenal player. Their secondary's been banged up, but again, they don't really have too much youth at that position. They got Humphrey, and then they just had Marcus Williams as a safety, but still, that's another quality player. The Ravens always draft value. They kind of always walk away with the Steeler draft. I think Cam Smith could be that here at 19. And the Arizona Cardinals, this is where I'm going to pull the trigger on Bijan Robinson. Unreal fit, by the way. Bijan Robinson in that Cardinals offense is phenomenal. It's a scary thought. Already, man. It's perfect for both sides there, in my opinion. Now, Seattle's back with the Denver pick here. they need a little bit of everything, man. Their roster is very, very not good, to be polite about it. They kind of addressed their secondary a little bit last year. No like major headliners. They could use some offensive linemen, so they did some solid work there. I think a lot of these interior offensive linemen make sense, but they still need help on the defensive side of the ball. I'm just gonna go ahead and give them Jaqueline Roy from LSU. Just a good defensive lineman, man. They need somebody on the D line. That their pass rush has been really lacking the last few years. They just need help on the defense side of the ball, and he's the best defensive player left, in my opinion. So I just think it makes sense to kind of slide him in right there. Maybe not the sexiest pick in the world, but a really solid pick, and that's what Seattle needs. They can't really afford to keep missing, or they really haven't missed too much. They have a little bit, but they need to draft solidly these next few years. Now with the Chargers, again, 22 might feel really low for the Chargers with how good that team is. They can go a number of directions here. They have everything they need, but I'm going to go ahead and keep Jordan Addison in the state of California and give Justin Herbert a new weapon to play with out there with Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. Who knows what they're going to add before this time next year. Maybe they take the Rams approach and just start sending their picks away. But I think if they keep it in this range is where we start to see these wide receivers fly off the board a little bit. Now we got the Dolphins somehow finding a way to get a pick back, even though they forfeited their own. A lot of ways this could go as well. Garrett Williams from Syracuse interests me. There's a lot of some other corners. Jordan Battle and Catalan. I said they're more safeties because they are. Kind of makes some sense here. I kind of like those guys. I'm definitely going to be considering them. Brian Branch, Brennan Joseph as well. But there's just, I don't know. Some edge rushers make a little sense. Some offensive line makes a little sense. So offensive line makes a lot of sense for Miami. The more I sit here and think about it, let's go ahead and just give them Broderick Jones from Georgia. Again, that team is so fun. It really is, but they need to get more sound in the trenches, I think. And I think that kind of just starts here. You missed out on your pick earlier, so you got to take a little bit of a safe approach. Go ahead and give me the best interior offensive lineman in the class. There in Broderick Jones, Georgia produces so many good offensive linemen. There's another one. Solid pick, nothing to complain about. Now on to the Colts. The Colts are one of the most interesting teams in the league this year. I think they have another team that has a lot of range of outcomes benefit by playing in not the best division. The Titans are on the decline a little bit. So again, they can go in a number of directions. They need some youth in the secondary and in the cornerback room. They have some youth in the safeties in the last couple of years. They definitely do. But it just doesn't feel like a Colts pick to sit here and draft a corner. It doesn't. I'm deciding if I want to give which one of these three edge rushers / defensive linemen I want to give them. I really don't know. I think I'm going to go ahead and give him Javon Dexter Sr. from Florida. I just think I don't know. There's just something about him. He just feels more like a Colt coming from the bigger conferences. And he's good. All those guys are good. Those are the three early on in the draft process that I'm really having trouble deciding between with the Baylor guy and Isaiah Foskey. They're really good. They're all so good. This defensive draft is so good. And the defensive line, the edge rushers, the linebackers, this draft is so good. So good. Now, here. The Cowboys, man. The Cowboys. Again, they could go with some edge rushers. Michael Mayer kind of feels like a Cowboy to some degree, in my opinion. I'm not going to lie to you, but I just don't think they have the luxury of taking a tight end. I don't. So a receiver sort of too. I think they could use some secondary help. They need a little bit of everything on the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion. So that's, take that with you would. They're a really top-heavy defense. They have some playmakers, but they really lack some depth, if we're being honest. And I'm stuck here, man. I want to give them one of these. I'm gonna go ahead and give them Catalan or Battle. I'm gonna give them Jordan Battle. They need some help back there, man. Jordan Battle is another versatile piece. They really like their versatile playmakers on the defensive side of the football. You can do a little bit of everything. Jordan Battle comes in and can kind of start from day one. Just really boost that secondary instantly. Now, Cincinnati Bengals, another team, they can do a lot. I think they could use some defensive line help, a little bit another pass rusher. Their corners are going to be up in the air a little bit. I could see a corner here, but I think they have the luxury. They don't have a future player at this position. Michael Mayer, probably the best tight end in this draft class. If you don't know, he's a hometown kid with the Cincinnati Bengals. Just fits like a glove. The player fits, the scheme fits, the storyline fits, everything about it fits. Michael Mayer to Cincy would be a phenomenal value here. Michael Mayer could fly up way higher in the draft boards. He's one of those players. He's one of those kind of tight ends. He's your do-it-all tight end as well, not just one-dimensional. There's some other good tight ends. All of these tight ends, Eric Gilbert, he could end up shooting way up the draft boards, man, if he just kind of stays on the field this year. We just haven't really been able to see him on the field, man. Now, the Detroit Lions here at 27 are, in my opinion, with these quarterbacks on the board, they're going to take one of them. I'm going to go ahead and give them Anthony Richardson here. Kind of guy that could really go earlier, but once you fall out of those first few picks, none of these teams scream needing a quarterback. So that's why you go ahead and he kind of fell. He fell here to 27 to the Detroit Lions. Again, maybe the Lions decide to keep adding value and they add another edge rusher. Or they're not going to add another edge rusher since I gave them. They took Aiden Hutchinson and Will Anderson in this mock earlier. So I just think quarterback makes sense here. They can kind of afford to do that finally. The Packers, Quentin Johnson. I know they drafted a lot of receivers last year, but they still need more. Regardless of what the situation is, the receivers they have on the roster that aren't Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs aren't very good and aren't very young. So now at the very least, you got Quentin Johnson, you have Christian Watson, and you have Romeo Doubs, you have Amari Rodgers. That's your receiving core for the foreseeable future, no matter who your quarterback is. Now here with the Chiefs, man. The Chiefs, very good team, a lot to like here for them. I'm going to go ahead and give him Trenton Simpson. A little bit more of a do-it-all guy. The Chiefs just need defensive help. He kind of fits in that linebacker pass rushing role. Can do a little bit of everything for them, and it's really quite that simple. The Bucks. I'm tempted to give them Tanner McKee or Devin Leary. I really am. Tom Brady cannot play much longer. I feel like we say that every single year, and here he is playing football. I'm going to go ahead and give him Tanner McKee. There's just something about it. I think he's a hell of a quarterback. And I think they're going to, man, Kyle Trask isn't it. He's just not. And yeah, I think they could be one of those teams that tries to bring in vets for a couple of years. But if you can get a quarterback that you really believe in, you kind of take over right away, then it makes all the sense in the world to kind of pull the trigger on him. Now the Buffalo Bills. This one's tough, but it's a little easy at the same time. It's Brian Branch or Noah Sewell for me, the brother of Penei Sewell. They need some linebacker help a little bit. Their safeties are old. So I'm just going to go ahead and give him Brian Branch here. That wraps up the first round. Man, the draft cycle is always so much fun. It's very, 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 very early in the draft process. So please remember that here. Let's see if I can get the whole thing to fit. Pretty much. There's the whole thing. You got the gist of it. There's the first two. A little bit of the recap there for you guys. But again, very early in the draft cycle, we got the Miami Dolphins forfeiting their pick. We got a lot of ups and downs. Some question marks to fill out. Who's going to be the risers? Who's going to be the fallers? Who's going to be the number one pick? There's no consensus number one this year. You have a general idea. It's, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised. It's probably going to be one of these three people, and if it's not, I'd be very surprised. We always kind of see one of these quarterbacks fly up the boards later in the draft process. Who's that going to be? Who's going to be the receiver that just dominates college football this year? Is Will Anderson just going to have another dominant year? There are so many question marks. But that's why this is a way too early 2023 NFL mock draft. Before college football starts, before the NFL season has started, we're just having some fun. And these are going to continue throughout the draft year. As it gets closer and closer, the NFL mock drafts will be coming here on the TWSN YouTube channel. So thank you guys for tuning in. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys here soon.